Hello, Rick, Cameron, and Julie. How's audio? How's video? How's internet connection? All those things. Hello, Jay. How's the connection? Everything going through? Can you hear me? All good? Hello, Kristen. All right. Thank you, Cameron. Okay, good. Yeah. Just checking. It has been a year since I did a live stream from here. So, those of you who saw Dhammapalooza last year probably didn't see what's behind me. Because I was on the other wall. Those of you who attend the morning monastery experience and you know about this mural, this is usually what you see when we do morning monastery experience until I do the final Dhamma teaching in the end. I'm here at Lion of Wisdom in Maryland with Bhante Rahula, although Bhante Rahula is going to be gone. He's going to Brazil soon. So I'm going to be the resident monk for about a month of the 2 months that I'm going to be here. Hello, Visaka. Welcome. Hello, Gretchen. We'll get started in about a minute or two. I don't know, Jay. Did I? Ah, yes, I did. I'm sorry. It got lost in all the Eventbrite emails. My Maggasekha at Gmail has become quite cluttered. There we go. All right. So yeah, I will. If I don't send you a link today, which I might not, depending on how tired I am, I might forget. But I'll definitely make a note to send it to you so I can get it to you tomorrow so you can join the Discord. Yeah, very good. All right, friends, let's get started. Do some chanting as usual. We're going to do Paticca Samuppada, Anuloma. Avidya Paccaya Sankhara Sankhara Paccaya Vinyanang Vinyana Paccaya Namarupang Namarupa Paccaya Salayatanang Salayatana Paccaya Passo Passa Paccaya Vedana Vedana Paccaya Tanha Tanha Paccaya Upadanang Upadana Paccaya Bhavo Bhava Paccaya Jati Jati Paccaya Jara Maranang Soka Parideva Dukkha Domanas Upayassa Sambhavanti Evametassa Kevalassa Dukkha Kandassa Samudayo Hoti. Patiloma Avidjaya Tveva Sesa Viraga Niroda Sankara Nirodo Sankara Niroda Vinyana Nirodo Vinyana Niroda Namarupa Nirodo Namarupa Niroda Salayatana Nirodo Salayatana Niroda Passa Nirodo Passa Niroda Vedana Nirodo Vedana Niroda Tanha Nirodo Tanha Niroda Upadana Nirodo Upadana Niroda Bhava Nirodo Bhava Niroda Jati Nirodo Jati Niroda Jara Maranang Soka Parideva Dukkha Domana Supayassa Nirujjanti Evametassa Kevalassa Dukkha Kandassa Nirodo Hoti iti. All right, English. The arising of the wheel of existence. Dependent on ignorance, volitional formations arise. Dependent on volitional formations, consciousness arises. Dependent on consciousness, mentality and materiality arise. Dependent on mentality and materiality, the sixfold base arises. Dependent on the sixfold base, contact arises. Dependent on contact, feeling arises. Dependent on feeling, craving arises. Dependent on craving, clinging arises. Dependent on clinging, becoming arises. Dependent on becoming, birth arises. Dependent on birth, aging and death arise, and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Thus there is the arising of this whole mass of suffering. The cessation of the wheel of existence. Through the entire cessation of this ignorance, volitional formations cease. Through the cessation of volitional formations, consciousness ceases. Through the cessation of consciousness, mentality and materiality cease. Through the cessation of mentality and materiality, the sixfold base ceases. Through the cessation of the sixfold base, contact ceases. Through the cessation of contact, feeling ceases. Through the cessation of feeling, craving ceases. Through the cessation of craving, clinging ceases. Through the cessation of clinging, becoming ceases. Through the cessation of becoming, birth ceases. Through the cessation of birth, aging and death cease, and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Thus there is the arising of the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. And that is dependent origination. For those of you who don't know, in next month, I'll be doing my first Zoom retreat on the topic of dependent origination. So if you like to spend a whole weekend on the topic of dependent origination, you can check that out. Also, in 2 weekends, I have my Zoom retreat coming on, laying down the burden. So friends, it is Monday night. That means it is time for Dhammapalooza, the festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community, where we come together to do all kinds of Dhamma-related activities. We did some chanting. We'll do some meditation later on. What we'll do next? Well, that's up to you, because Dhammapalooza is, as always, a community-guided event. Whenever I make the event, I only put Dhammapalooza in the date, because I have no idea what it's going to be tonight. Is it going to be lots of questions or no questions? Reading suttas, maybe some sutta roulette, maybe a Dhamma talk, maybe discussion. Who knows? It's up to you all. So for the next couple of minutes in the chat, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, you can put them in the chat. If you have any Dhamma topics you'd like me to give a Dhamma talk on, you can put those in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like the community to discuss, you can put those in the chat. And as always, the community is free to talk to each other in the chat, support each other, give each other, links or whatever you need to do to support each other. I always encourage good community connection and support. And so even if I'm talking and you type back and forth or whatever for some reason, no problem. You're not being disrespectful or anything like that. This is good to develop community. I always love to see when people are supporting each other in the chat in a variety of different ways. So welcome Louisa, John, and Audrey. Kristen has a really quick question. Have you read any preview copies of Bhanteji's upcoming book, Dependent Origination? If so, no. Are they available somewhere? Or did you just assume that because Bhanteji ordained me that I would have a secret in? Yeah. So no, I haven't read it. But if it's anything like his other in plain English books, it will be very beneficial to a lot of people, no doubt. Especially with dependent origination. I don't know. He might, but maybe hopefully next there'll be anatta in plain English. If he's going dependent origination, he has to go anatta too, because those are probably two of the hardest Buddhist doctrines to understand intellectually. I see the chat is rather quiet tonight. Maybe we'll do some Sutta Roulette. I'll give it another minute or so just in case the chat has a lag. But evening, Gregory. All right, let's do some Sutta Roulette. Maybe one of these days I should get like a theme song for Sutta Roulette. But we'll see. We'll get to. Let me share screen here. So Sutta Roulette is a little game that I came up with maybe about a year ago. And so for those of you who have not played it before, this is how it works. It's essentially a mechanism for two things. The first is for those of you who are not really kind of familiar with how to maneuver and get through the suttas. This is really helpful for that. The second is we have no idea what the topic is going to be, right? So we're just essentially reading random suttas that are going to come based on numbers that the community picks. So there's two kinds of fun aspects to this, right? It's a learning tool, and also we don't know what Dhamma. So how this is going to work is this. I will do my little brackets like I just did in the chat now. And then I will say, because with the Nikayas, pretty much any sutta is going to have two numbers. The first number is going to be, well, not with the Majjhima and the Digha Nikaya, but with the suttas we're going to be going through, we alternate between the Anguttara and the Sutta, the Samyutta Nikaya. And in those two Nikayas, we're going to have two numbers. Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, only one number. So, like, somebody knows the sutta they want me to read, then it's an easy. And plus, they're longer suttas. So, we want to do short suttas with this game. So, the first number is going to be the chapter, either the Vagga, the Samyutta, whatever it might be. And the second number is going to be the specific sutta. There could be hundreds of suttas in one Samyutta or one Anguttara. So this is what we're going to do. And since we did the Samyutta Nikaya last time, I remember that because I inclined towards the Samyutta Nikaya. So we're going to do the Anguttara Nikaya tonight. So here we are on the screen. We see the front page of Sutta Central. So this is always a good start for those of you who want to kind of understand how to navigate the suttas. So we have the three baskets right up front. The basket of discourses, you can see under that Sutta Pitaka, the monastic law, Vinaya Pitaka, and systematic treatises, that's Abhidhamma. So we're going to always be in here, the Sutta Pitaka. And then we see on Sutta Central, you have the English up top in the large letters and the Pali in small letters under it. So that's the Digha Nikaya. We're not going to use that. That's the Majjhima Nikaya, the collection of middle discourses. Not going to use that. Samyutta Nikaya, collection of linked discourses, linked because each Samyutta is all about one topic. And so we're going to go to the numbered discourses, the Anguttara. So we click that. And now the Anguttara Nikaya, before we get to that, whenever you get to this point, there's going to be a whole list of types. The Pali is always on top, because you can see here, Agama. When you talk about Agama, you see this is the Chinese. So we're not dealing with any of these. If you want to, if you know the language or whatever, you want to do some EBT, comparisons, then you can do that. But for this purposes, we're up here in the Pali. So now, there are 11 books in the Anguttara Nikaya. Hello, Perennial Daydreams, welcome. So that means the first number is going to be between 1 and 11. So now I'm going to say, type a number in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, Kristen comes in with a 10. So we are in the Book of Tens. Now, in the Anguttara Nikaya, the books, the numbers doesn't really determine what the topic is going to be, right? So, I mean, usually it's going to determine the teachings that are based around a group of 10, right? Or a group of 4, or a group of 5, etc. But the topic is not going to be determined by just the first number. So even though this has hundreds and hundreds of suttas, after about 100, it's going to be really short suttas. So what I'm going to say is this. Give me a number between 1 and 80. In 3, 2, 1, go. Usually, if I stick to between 1 and 80, we'll get a decent chunk of a sutta. 33. All right. So first 50. We're in the first 50. You see Anguttara Nikaya 10.1 to 150. So we want to go there. We got 33. So Anguttara Nikaya 1 to 10. Nope. 11 to 20. Nope. 21 to 30. Nope. A chapter with Upali, Anguttara Nikaya 10:31 to 40, the Upali Vagga. So that's where we're going. And then you see the suttas. This is the Pali. This is the English with Upali. This is the Pali name of the sutta, Upali Sutta. And then you see here Anguttara Nikaya 10.31. Right, so we want to go to 3.3. So that's 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. 10.3.3, Ubahika Sutta, a judge. Oh, this is a good. If this is the sutta I remember, I'm thinking of, this is a really good sutta. Let's see. A judge. Sir, how many qualities should a mendicant have to be deemed a judge? Let's see what the Pali here. Sometimes in suttas like this, it pays to understand the context of the Pali word. So I'm just going to do a advanced lookup real quick. So this is in reference to a monk who is worthy of being able to settle disputes and rule breaches among the monastics. That's what this is talking about. Sir, how many qualities should a mendicant have to be deemed a judge? Upali, a mendicant should have 10 qualities to be deemed a judge. What 10? It's when a mendicant is ethical, restrained in the moral monastic code, conducting themselves well, and seeking alms in a suitable place. Seeing danger in the slightest fault, they keep the rules they've undertaken. They're very learned, remembering and keeping what they've learned. These teachings are good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. Meaningful and well phrased, describing a spiritual practice that's entirely full and pure. They are very learned in such teachings, remembering them, reinforcing them by recitation, mentally scrutinizing them, and comprehending them theoretically. Both monastic codes have been passed down to them in detail. So, question. Hello, Yankee. Welcome. And John and Audrey. What do they mean by both monastic codes? Anybody got an answer for that one? Not even a guess. Or is everybody sleeping? Ah, there you go. Jay says, Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni. Yes, this is something that's very important. You don't see this often in suttas, so lay people don't often come across this. But in multiple places, the Buddha, it is talked about how a monk is learned in both. Like a good monk should know both Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni Vinaya. Right? This is one of the reasons why I studied the Bhikkhuni Vinaya. Right? In addition to the fact that I want to ordain Bhikkhunis in the future, but to know it, to know it is important. So this is how a good monk is judged. One of the ways is that they're very skilled in both Vinayas. So you should know both. All right, continuing. Well analyzed, well mastered, well evaluated in both rules and accompanying material. They're firm and unfaltering in the training. When there are opposing parties, they're able to persuade, advocate, and convince them. Make them see the other side and trust each other. Isn't that a very important skill that's quite lacking in the world today? Somebody who can do something like that is quite skillful. They're skilled in raising and settling disciplinary issues. They know what a disciplinary issue is. So it's like, oh, that was a rule? Can you imagine? People don't even know the rules they're supposed to be living under. Guess what? That's actually way more common than you might think, unfortunately. It's way more common than you might think. Because most monks don't actually read the Vinaya. What they read is the commentary, cultural commentary on Vinaya, or what their teacher tells them. So this is unfortunately a very common occurrence. I've had this experience personally with other monks. They know what a disciplinary issue is. They know how a disciplinary issue originates. They know how a disciplinary issue ceases. They know the practical way leading to the cessation of a disciplinary issue. A mendicant should have these 10 qualities to be deemed a judge. Since we're here, why not go over the next one? This is what we do sometimes when we're going through shorter suttas. And it's probably going to be just about the same thing, but in relation to one who ordains. Sir, how many qualities should a mendicant have to give ordination? So let's see, if I don't have any of these qualities, I have 2.5 years to get them before I could, because then I can ordain people. So how many qualities should a mendicant have to give ordination? Upali, a mendicant should have 10 qualities to give ordination. What 10? It's when a mendicant is ethical, restrained in the monastic code, conducting themselves well and seeking alms in a suitable place. Seeing danger in the slightest fault, they keep the rules they've undertaken. They're very learned, remembering and keeping what they've learned. These teachings are good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. Meaningful and well phrased, describing a spiritual practice that's entirely full and pure. They are very learned in such teachings, remembering them, reinforcing them by recitation, mentally scrutinizing them, and comprehending them theoretically. Both monastic codes have been passed down to them in detail, well analyzed, well mastered, well evaluated in both the rules and accompanying material. They're able to care for the sick or to get someone else to do so. So this is important. These sections here, these are the rule. So just as lay people might know that the Buddha has given kind of duties for a husband to a wife, duties to a wife to a husband, duties to a parent to a child, duties from a child to a parent. The Buddha has also given duties from a senior monastic to a junior monastic, and to a junior monastic to a senior monastic. And interestingly enough, these couple are actually the duty of both the junior monastic and the senior monastic have these duties. They're able to care for the sick or get someone else to do so. Both junior and senior monastic have that duty to each other. They're able to settle dissatisfaction or get someone else to do so. Both have that duty. A junior monastic has the duty to support the senior monastic if they get depressed, if they are thinking about disrobing, etc. Right? Obviously, you would think a senior monastic obviously has the duty to try to help the junior monastic in that regard, but the junior monastic has the duty towards the senior as well. They're able to dispel remorse when it has come up. They're able to rationally dissuade someone from misconceptions that come up. That's also a duty to the junior monastic to the senior. Right? So there's it's like a father-son relationship. It's like a relationship or a mother-daughter relationship. And it's supposed to be that you're kind of looking out for each other and supporting each other. They're able to they're able to encourage someone in the higher ethics. So like if a junior monastic sees a senior monastic and their ethics are not that great, the junior monastic will say, Bhante, the Buddha says such and such and such. Should we be doing this? They're able to encourage someone in the higher ethics, the higher mind, the higher wisdom. A higher mind and higher wisdom, that's not part of the junior to the senior. Actually, those two are not in the Vinaya itself, but this is also important. Being able to guide someone to higher meditation practices. A mendicant should have these 10 qualities to give ordination. All right, I think from here we will do another search, another roll. Gregory says no Nagas allowed to ordain, though. Yes, not only Nagas, but various human beings. Various human beings with various maladies, mental or physical. Right? There's lots of reasons why a being cannot be ordained. Jay says, does every training rule have an origin or a backstory as to why it became a rule? Yes. Yes, they all do. At least 1,000 plus have some level of a backstory. And there's some interesting discussion as to whether those stories were added later or not. I don't know. But the stories really give a very important context to the rule. I'll give you an example. Most people think that monastics are not allowed to touch women. This is false. There is no rule that says such a thing. Not in the slightest. The rule, which is Maggasekha, states that a monastic is not to touch a woman with the mind of lust, like because of a lustful reason. And the story is behind this. What's the story? It's so funny. That's why I always love telling this story. It's quite comical. Even though I do a little embellishment, Ajahn Brahm level embellishment. So at the time of the Buddha, it seemed pretty common that, Brahmins and lay people would go visit Samanas' dwelling places. This is not just like a Buddhist thing. Remember, the Samana culture was part of ancient India, the Jains and people who dog duty ascetics, various different types of people who were practicing ascetic practices. So the story goes that this married couple goes to tour this bhikkhu's cave, basically. It's what it is. If you go to Ajahn Brahm's place, Bodhinyana, and ask Ajahn Brahm to show you his cave, you can go and see the cave. I did. So anyway, so this husband is in the cave and he's like, wow, these Sakyan ascetics are so good. They're so ethical. They're so, very good ascetics that they're living in such a very ascetic and very simple way, etc., etc. And while this kind of like dumb husband is, going off on talking about how wonderful the Sakyan ascetics, the Buddhist monks are, this Buddhist monk kind of comes up to the wife and is like, like caressing her shoulder and kind of putting the moves on her, right? And then they leave, and the husband's still like, wow, these Sakyan ascetics, they're so wonderful. This is amazing, amazing. And the wife was like, you stupid fool. This monk touched me like my husband would touch me. And then the husband got really angry and he's like, I can't believe these Sakyan ascetics. Blah, 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 blah. And he goes and he gives a bad reputation, right? So he goes from like totally praising to get that angry, I can't believe these Sakyan ascetics are deceitful. They're lustful, etc. So we understand the rule from the story. This is not about, a woman comes up, in the West and you shake hands and like, oh my God, I broke a Sangha rule. I need to, be with 20 monks and go through a 6-day, purging process and all these kind. No. That's not how it works. Now, how it has been interpreted in some traditions, to the point that you get where in Thailand, where a monk, a woman has to put an offering on a piece of cloth, right? The monk rolls out the cloth and the woman puts, or better yet, the woman is actually in the back, gives it to the husband, and then the husband gives it to the monk. That's more common than the woman putting it on a cloth. But how we get to that is that later works like Abhidhamma and commentaries, you have this thing called the mind moment, where there's 72 mind moments in 1 second. This is not in the Vinaya. This is pure later. This is nothing to do. This was not. And I can make a whole argument as to why this doesn't make any sense with how the Buddha laid down the rules. But anyway, so the way, like it will be described, if you bring up this argument to like a Thai monk, the way it'll be described is, well, in 1/72 of a second, lust might arise, and then I'd be breaking the rules. That's not how it works. I don't even know. Maybe like someone close to an arahant or someone who's really a master of all the jhanas can understand, can maybe see if there's something that arises 72 times in a second. But the average person, this is not going to be how it works. So there's no way you can base a whole set of rules on what might arise. And the other aspect is, that's not intention. That's just lust arising. What was your intention when you engaged in the action to begin with? That's the important thing. So, so this is why it's actually very important to have the stories to kind of get a context of, well, why is this a rule in the first place? Right? Without the stories, there's just a rule, and you don't kind of really know why. All right, so I just went on a huge tangent. Didn't a man-eating yaka become ordained or awakened? I don't think so. Not a yaka. A yaka, if a naga is not going to be able to ordain, a yaka is not going to ordain. Maybe they are born. It said they were born as a human in the next life and ordain. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm not familiar if that is a story. I don't think that's in the suttas or in the Vinaya. All right. So now that I put some people asleep with going over Vinaya details, let's do another Sutta Roulette. A number between 1 and 11, and 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see who's awake. All right, Jay is the only person. Well, at least Rick. If Rick was interested, he's awake, so that's good. Jay gives a 4, so we will go to. And so, for those of you who are paying attention, you can see on up top is the kind of line that you've gone through. So we're going to go back to the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Fours. A number between 1 and 80, and 3, 2, 1, go. All right, 11. Walking. Chara Sutta. Mendicant. Suppose a mendicant has a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought while walking. So this is the opposite of right thought, samma sankappa. This is miccha sankappa. Suppose a mendicant has miccha sankappa, wrong thought, wrong intention while walking. They tolerate it and don't give it up. Get rid of it, eliminate, and obliterate it. Such a mendicant is said to be not keen or prudent, always lazy, lacking energy when walking. Suppose a mendicant has a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought while standing, sitting, lying down, while awake. They tolerate it and don't give it up. Get rid of it, eliminate, and obliterate it. Such a mendicant is said to be not keen or prudent, always lazy and lacking energy when lying down and while awake. Suppose a mendicant has a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought while walking. They don't tolerate it, but give it up. Get rid of it, eliminate it, and obliterate it. See, this is why some words bother me, like obliterate, because this is where people think there's like, I'm gonna push that thought right out of my mind. I'm gonna obliterate it. But really, what the word means is to cause to not exist. So, a hindrance has arisen in my mind. I have examined, investigated, and I understand that when this hindrance arises, if I do this action, then it will cease. If the hindrance of ill will arises, I practice metta, it ceases, etc. Right? So this is not about, what we see in the end of the Majjhima Nikaya number 20, not Tveda Vitaka. I'm trying to remember the 5 ways of subduing subduing distracting thoughts, right? The last one is crushing mind with mind. This is kind of what people think when they see obliterate, exterminate. They think I'm crushing mind with mind. That almost always makes things worse. That is only a last resort. So when you see obliterate in words such like this, be very careful in understanding what this means. To cause to not exist. Such a mendicant is said to be keen and prudent, always energetic and determined when walking. Suppose a mendicant has a sensual, malicious, or cruel thought while standing, sitting, or when lying down while awake. They don't tolerate it, but give it up, get rid of it, eliminate it, and obliterate it. Such a mendicant is said to be keen and prudent, always energetic and determined when lying down while awake. Whether walking or standing, sitting down or lying down, or sitting or lying down, if you think a bad thought to do with the lay life, you're on the wrong path, lost among things that delude. Such a mendicant is incapable. This is actually interesting because the Anguttara Nikaya is heavily inclined towards lay teachings, but our random suttas are bringing up monastic ones. Such a mendicant is incapable of experiencing the highest awakening. But one who, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, has calmed their thoughts, loving peace of mind, such a mendicant is capable of experiencing the highest awakening. All right. Let's do it again. A number between 1 and 11 in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's see if more than 2 or 3 people give a number. All right, well, at least Rick wasn't first last time, so Rick will go with 3. And a number between 1 and 80 in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, 68. Second 50. Great chapter, 61 to 70. 61, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Followers of other paths. Mendicants, if wanderers of other religions were to ask, there are these 3 things. What 3? Greed, hatred, and delusion. Huh. Aya Sudama and I had a little discussion during a Samyutta Monday, I think maybe last week, about is there a major difference between Lobha Dosa Moha and Raga Dosa Moha. And here, Bhante Sujato has essentially made it a synonymous. I wonder. That's interesting. That's why I said, what 3? Greed, hatred, and delusion. These are the 3 things. What's the difference between them? How would you answer them? Our teachings are rooted in the Buddha. He is our guide and our refuge. Sir, may the Buddha himself please clarify the meaning of this. Mendicants will listen and remember. Well then, mendicants, listen and apply your mind well. I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. Mendicants, if wanderers of other religions were to ask, there are these three things. What three? Greed, hatred, and delusion. These are the three things. What's the difference between them? You should answer them. Greed, reverends, is mildly blameworthy, but slow to fade away. Hate is very blameworthy, but quick to fade away. Delusion is very blameworthy, but slow to fade away. Hmm. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why greed arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows? You should say, the beautiful feature of things, subha. So we're aware, we're familiar with the word asubha when it comes to like mindfulness of death practices, 32 parts of the body, etc. But here we have subha nimitta, the sign of the beautiful. The sign of the beautiful is the reason, is the cause for attachment, for clinging, for greed. When you apply the mind irrationally to the beautiful feature of these things, then this is a uniso. So, like when you apply your mind in a wrong way, micha, as opposed to as opposed to wise, a yoniso, as opposed to yoniso. When you apply your mind irrationally to the beautiful feature of things, greed arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why greed arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why hate arises? And once arisen, it increases and grows. You should say, the feature of harshness. When you apply the mind irrationally to the feature of harshness, hate arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why hate arises. And once arisen, it increases and grows. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why delusion arises? And once arisen, it increases and grows. You should say irrational application of mind. So ayoniso manasikara, as opposed to yoniso manasikara. When you apply the mind irrationally, delusion arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. This is the cause, this is the reason why delusion arises, and once arisen, it increases and grows. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why greed doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. You should say, asubha nimitta, the unpleasant or ugly features. When you apply the mind rationally to the ugly features of things, greed doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. This is the cause, this is the reason why greed doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why hate doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. You should say, the heart's released by metta, metta ceto vimutti. When you apply the mind rationally on the heart's released by love, hate doesn't arise, or if it's already arisen, it's given up. This is the cause, this is the reason why hate doesn't arise, or if it's already arisen, it's given up. And if they ask, what is the cause? What is the reason why delusion doesn't arise? Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. You should say rational application of mind. When you apply the mind rationally, delusion doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. This is the cause. This is the reason why delusion doesn't arise. Or if it's already arisen, it's given up. All right, friends. I think that's good. we will do our meditation now, and then after that, we'll do some. Oh, a question. Wow. All right. Let's see. Recently, a friend got to know a Western lay Buddhist order, then found sex scandals and ersatz. I don't know if I fully understand exactly what ersatz Dhamma would be. What can householders who want to formally support each other do to avoid such issues? Follow the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha in many sutta gives ways of how you judge Dhamma, right? How you judge teachers. You know somebody only by living with them for a long period of time. So, that being said, if you haven't lived with somebody from a long period of time, don't fully trust them. Listen to their Dhamma, take what's good, but don't just blindly give your agency away and trust them. You don't know them. And that goes even for very famous monks. Unless you've lived with them for a long time, you really don't know them. Yeah. So don't just blindly trust or believe them. Every monk that I listen to, I judge by the suttas. This is why I love Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah, unlike probably like 97% of all Thai forest teachers, is pure suttas. Like you listen to most Thai forest teachers, and they kind of go off on weird tangents, and you're like, that doesn't seem very sutta based and yada yada yada. But you listen to Ajahn Chah, and I've listened to pretty much everything available to him or read everything available to him. I can't think of one thing that's just blatantly like, that's not in the suttas, right? So I can judge somebody, right? But that still doesn't mean I know them. But at least I can kind of judge their teachings, right? That's what's great about being based in the suttas. You have something to base your judgment of teachers on. And it's not only do they teach and know the suttas, do they live the suttas? Right? That's another way you can judge them. But the Buddha gives us, different ways. I can't think of the numbers off the top of my head, but how to judge a teacher, how to judge the Buddha, how to judge if something is Dhamma. All of these are in the suttas for us to use as guidelines when we're, seeing if this place is kind of is this a good place to get Dhamma from? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even put it up. What I would say is this: any order that gets big enough, you're going to find a scandal. It's just the way. I mean, you're just adding more and more people, right? More teachers, more monks, more. There's always going to be a scandal somewhere. Any order that gets big enough. So I wouldn't necessarily denigrate the whole order because of one person, but it also depends on how the you know how the scandal is handled as well. Eric has a question, or at least a request. Can you talk about the difference between delusion regarding Dhamma and delusion relating to worldly mundane issues in life? Well, as Ajahn Chah says, what's Dhamma? What isn't? So everything in life, more worldly mundane issues, that's also Dhamma. It might not be transcendent Dhamma, but it's Dhamma. So the difference between delusion regarding Dhamma and delusion regarding worldly mundane issues in life Example, I have a strong faith in the Dhamma, but I have a lot of confusion, delusion related to complex life-altering chronic illness that impairs almost every area of life, including perceptions. I would work on not separating those two. Right? That complexity of your life is Dhamma. What is it teaching you? Sickness, illness, pain, mental and physical suffering. That's Dhamma. So, in many ways, I would say you actually probably have more confusion of Dhamma than you think, because you're not seeing it, the reality of it in your life. And I don't mean like that in a like, oh, you're not practicing well enough. I mean just in terms of how wisdom arises. You know, I personally don't see a lot of Dhamma in my own issues yet because I'm still too stupid to see it. I don't have the wisdom and insight to fully understand it yet, and that's okay. But the Dhamma, what is the Buddha always pointing to? What's the Dhamma? What are the divine messengers? Old age, sickness, death. The Dhamma is, what is dukkha? Old age, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, not getting what one wants, being separated from what one loves. That's all mundane stuff. But that's about as deep a Dhamma as you can get. That's the first noble truth. And the only being that fully understands the first noble truth is an awakened being. Right? So don't discount don't discount the mundane aspects of life for not Dhamma or misunderstanding, and then think that you're not confused on the Dhamma. Yeah, there's some confusion there for sure. Again, not a personal thing. We all have, unless we're awakened, we all have lots of confusion, lots of delusion. Including perceptions, right? Perceptions is understanding the delusion of perceptions is deep Dhamma. That took me years of practice to start to understand. That's not easy. But our perceptions are at minimum cause for always questioning. Mostly they're pretty off. Sometimes they're right. But unless you question and investigate them, you're not going to know which is which. So you're going to act in a deluded, stupid way. Bante, I was wondering if you could comment on navigating the commentaries and teachings of the modern-ish teachings when they potentially conflict with the suttas. I may be misunderstanding. Sorry. I basically, for me personally, I just don't bother with them. You know, I always go back to the suttas are 5,000 pages of teachings. That's way more than enough for one lifetime. I'm not going to go bothering and all these other things that conflict with the suttas or don't or overcomplicate things in esoteric ways. For me, I'm not going to just, it's not worth it. You know, that doesn't mean I wouldn't necessarily learn something from it, but you have to triage. There's only a certain amount of minutes in the hour, hours in the day, and days in the year, and years in the life, right? So you kind of have to be like, well, I'm just going to leave that alone. You know, monastics who know the commentaries very well will say that it's not all bad stuff. There's some good stuff and there's some bad stuff. Basically, ancient commentaries are the same as monks on YouTube channels today, right? It's basically like, I interpret the suttas in this way. That's what commentaries are, right? So some of those interpretations might be pretty spot on, and some of them might be way off. And because 99% of commentaries are in Pali, not translated to English, and I can't read Pali like I can read English yet, well, most of the commentaries I've never even read. So I can't really even necessarily say anything bad or good about them. I'm only going off of what more senior monastics who are able to read them in Pali know. So maybe eventually I might get to the point where I am well enough in Pali where I might read them. I might have read through the suttas enough times where I'll say maybe by the time I'm like 90. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, that's what I would say. For me personally, like I was saying before, I judge the teachings of other teachers by the suttas. The suttas are the foundation of my framework for my understanding of the Dhamma. And if they're teaching is way off from the suttas, well, it's for me personally, I just don't. Well, I mean, I don't really honestly listen to lots of Dhamma teachings from various teachers these days, anyway. But that how I was while I was in lay life doing that, I'd give them like 5-10 Dhamma talks, and if they were kind of off, I'd be like, yeah, this teacher's not for me, and I would just not listen to them anymore. Doesn't mean they're not for many people. Many people might find much benefit in them, but for me, it wasn't. They were not going to be part of my journey, so I let them go. You have to triage. Gave me a good laugh. Well, yeah, I mean, this is the older I get, the more I realize how important that is. It's like there's just not enough time. Like, what's really the most important? When you're younger, you feel like you have so much time in front of you, so you don't even think, yeah, well, I just. But it's like as you get older, it's like, well, I mean, I could be dead soon. So, what's most important? There's a whole world of, I mean, as somebody who has studied thousands and thousands of hours studying over the course of my life, various cultures, various religions, various ways of life, philosophies, etc. I mean, that was really in many ways to find what was the one that connected with me fit me the best. And once I found that one, well, okay, those are all nice, but I'm not going to spend any more time on them. I mean, it's okay, yeah. So this is interesting. In terms of bringing up Ajahn Chah, somebody whose teachings you trust, how do you interpret his teachings of being with the one who knows? At least in one teaching, he explicitly explains what he means by the one who knows. And at least for me, honestly, I couldn't point you, oh, it was this teaching in this line. But at least for me, that was enough explanation to understand that he understands that this can be confused or diluted with anatta. Like, oh, the one who knows is the permanent self, right? That this is a very common trap. And so he very clearly puts that to rest so that anybody who listens to him will know he is very clearly not even giving an inkling of any kind of permanent essence or soul when he's talking about the one who knows. When other teachers have said so, it gets a little iffy. or at the very least, it leaves room for delusional people to then kind of be like, oh, that's where the self is, the one who knows. Okay, so that's why I would say, the other thing with Ajahn Chah is this. I remember listening to one of the teachings, and he brought up a simile. And while the simile wasn't exactly to the suttas, it was an obscure simile from an obscure sutta that no one will have ever read unless you read through all of the suttas page by page. I never heard another teacher bring this up. It was a very obscure sutta, very obscure simile. It's not like one of the similes you see like 100 times throughout the suttas. It's very obscure. And I was like, holy crap, he knows the suttas. Now, again, by the time he was giving that teaching, he probably had read that sutta like 30 years ago. I had read it maybe a year ago, right? So he wasn't exactly the simile, but it was like 70-80% close. So like that was like a real like eye opener for me. It's like, yeah, Ajahn Chah knows. And eventually, if you know his history, his biography, he was a Sutta Vinaya teacher. So like he really knew. He passed all the highest exams. So he knew the suttas and the Vinaya very well. And that is kind of, I think, what was the spur for him to be like, well, wait a second. I'm not practicing. I'm not really doing the teaching. Maybe I should start doing that. Right. And then that's what led him on to, what he became. Yeah, parental daydreams. What I would say is, download all of go to amarvati.org, the Amarvati, the English monastery. Google Amarvati 57 teachings Ajahn Chah or complete teachings, and you can get all of them in audio read by Ajahn Amaro. I must have listened to those while walking at Bhavana at least a dozen times each over the years, just walking and listening to Ajahn Chah teachings. So I don't know, 57 times a dozen, how many times that is. I'm not good with math, but I've listened to them a lot, at least a dozen times each. So I would really suggest doing that while you're driving, walking, whatever, all kinds of found time. Listen to Ajahn Chah giving his talks. Well, Ajahn Amaro reading his talks. In my opinion, in my journey, Ajahn Chah is the monk that I feel the most connected to in modern times. Like his teachings, even though he died when I was a teenager. Like I think he died when I was like 18 or whatever. He was not teaching 10 years before that. So he was around during my lifetime, but obviously didn't make it until I was a Buddhist. But his teachings are so simple and deep, and that's exactly what the suttas are, right? His teachings are straight up like, this is a simile about a chicken, but it's deep Dhamma. Like, like that's exactly how the Buddha, like, that's a rare skill to be able to put the Dhamma in such simple terms, but so profound and deep terms. Ajahn Chah's the best. I don't know. I don't know if he was an arahant or not, but in terms of his teachings, he's tops. Bhante Ji is probably a close second. But Ajahn Chah is great. Yeah, the collected teachings of Ajahn Chah. Yeah, yeah. So if you see my teachings, in some ways, how I present the Dhamma is like a mix of Ajahn Chah and Bhante Ji, right? Like I try to be very simple, pragmatic, and like down to earth, and give normal teachings, but I also keep them very sutta based. So I have like Bhante Ji and Ajahn Chah in me, and that's kind of like the mixture that I see in my teachings when I talk Dhamma. That's not a bad mix. I'm quite happy with those teachings. All right, Dharma learner. Are there descriptions in the suttas describing a progressive of seeing or feeling non-self as the jhanas are described when one is in a meditative state? Or is non-self considered being an arahant? You know, this is an interesting question because I know that when I talk about anatta, I talk about it as a gradual unveiling. But I don't know that the Buddha necessarily goes into um, detail in that way in the suttas about anatta. I would say it's not a explicit thing, it's more an implicit thing as you understand as wisdom grows. If given a couple of months, I could probably write an essay with my argument on that. But I don't think I could be wrong. You know, I would ask that question to somebody like a Bhante Ji, somebody who's has many more years with the suttas, or Bhikkhu Bodhi or Ajahn Brahm or whatever. Maybe they might know one off the top of their head, but I don't know that there is one, to be honest with you. But you can kind of see it in the Sotipanna, right? The Sotipanna has abandoned identity view, but only the Arahant has abandoned the conceit I am. So just in those two, you see the hint of a progression. Even though, like, you get to the point of Sotipanna and you've kind of like, okay, I've really examined my body, I've examined my mind. I don't really see anything that I can really say is me, mine, or myself, but I still am. I still exist. I can feel. I am. There's this being is here. I can see it. It's just so there. That's the conceit I am. Right. So not a once returner, Sakirigami, not a once returner, not a anagami, a non-returner. They haven't abandoned those either. Only an arahant has fully abandoned them. So I can see, at least from that one example, I really like questions that make me think. That's a really awesome question, because at least one example did come up, which is good. I would say that's one piece of evidence in a gradual anatta progression. Um, Boy, this is an interesting Dhammapalooza. I've never had more questions happen after the sutta reading than before. It's kind of wild. But this is what Dhammapalooza is anicca. You never know what's going to happen. Unstable and undependable. So Jay says, what do you have to say about not dedicating ourselves to another teacher mentioned in Anguttara Nikaya 694, which is listed with 5 other things that are said that can land us in hell? Let's go to it. Why not? Because I need to see that for some clarity. Things that can't be done. Right, let me share. And against these things can't be done. What's 6? Person accomplished in view can't murder their mother or father. So this is this, did I do this right? 694? Yeah. All right. Okay. Now I understand the context. This is talking about a sotepan. This is talking about a stream enter. Once you're a stream enter, these stream enter does not do this. These are the 5 heavy kamas. Killing mother and father, or an arahant. You can't kill a Buddha. You can only wound a Buddha, but you can kill an arahant. They can't maliciously shed the blood of there it is. Shed the blood of a Buddha. They can't cause a schism in the Sangha. They can't dedicate themselves to another teacher. These are the 6 things that can't be done. Why? Well, that's easy. Because Sotipanna has seen the Dhamma. Their eye has been opened. They have no doubt left. No doubt in Buddha Dhamma Sangha. So they would never go to another teacher. Like a Sotipanna would never, go to another religion or go to another teaching. It's because they've seen awakening, right? They're not awakened yet, but they've seen the deep Dhamma. The eye has been opened. There's no more doubt. So they would not be drawn into another doctrine. That's the chanting that we do in the morning with the Bhavana translation. That's how they translate that. Maybe Bhattaji or whoever translated that. They would not be drawn into another doctrine. Gregory says, some Thai Ajahn seem to draw parallels between Nibbana and the monotheistic God. Oh boy. Why? As being the ultimate. Is it helpful comparison or does it paper over fundamental differences? I would say the latter. I would definitely say that there's fundamental differences. Now, what I'm missing here is the context. I'm missing the context of the talk. If they're trying to put up Nibbana as like the highest, the ultimate, the goal, then maybe I can see them trying to say it's kind of like, you want to be reunited with God in Hinduism or be with God in heaven in Christianity or whatever. But it's unskillful. What I would say is I doubt they're Western Thai monastics. Because I've seen this a lot with Sri Lankan monks. They'll try to make connections, and I'm like, yeah, you're not from the. I can tell you're not from the culture. this this is not that you're trying. It's very good. He's trying, but this is not a good simile. This is not a good comparison. It's not going to work that way. Um, I can only imagine me learning Thai and trying to give Thai talks, and I would not understand so many of the contexts that of the words that I would be saying in the Thai culture. It's just it's just a lost in translation thing. That's of course me giving it the benefit of the doubt. I mean, not based on not having actual context. All right, all right. Let's at least do 10 minutes of meditation. Not going to be guided. We're just meditate in silence together because we are getting late. Slowly open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, contemplating the meditation. It's both, Dharma learner. All aspects of experience are anatta, so you can see it in all aspects of experience. All right. So let's do some Dhammapada. Then we'll do final business and share merits. Impurity. Like a withered leaf are you now. Death's messengers await you. You stand on the eve of your departure, yet you have made no provision for your journey. Make an island for yourself. Strive hard and become wise. Rid of impurities and cleansed of stain, you shall enter the celestial abode of the noble ones. Your life has come to an end now. You are setting forth into the presence of Yama, the king of death. No resting place is there for you on the way, yet you have made no provision for the journey. Make an island unto yourself. Strive hard and become wise. Rid of impurities and cleanse of stain. You shall not come again to birth and decay. One by one, little by little, moment by moment, a wise man should remove his own impurities as a smith removes a dross from silver. Just as rust arising from iron eats away at the base of which it arises, even so their own deeds lead transgressors to states of woe. Non-repetition is the bane of scriptures, neglect is the bane of a home, slovenliness is the bane of personal appearance, and heedlessness is the bane of a guard. Unchastity is the taint of a woman, niggardliness is the taint of a giver. Taints, indeed, are all evil things, both in this world and the next. A worse taint than these is ignorance, the worst of all taints. Destroy this one taint and become taintless, O monks. Easy is life for the shameless. One who is impudent as a crow, is backbiting and forward, arrogant and corrupt. Difficult is life for the modest. One who always seeks purity, is detached and unassuming, clean in life and discerning. One who destroys life, utters lies, and takes what is not given, goes to another man's wife, and is addicted to intoxicating drinks. Such a man digs up his own root even in this world. Know this, O good man, evil things are difficult to control. Not greed and wickedness drag you to protracted misery. People give according to their faith or regard. If one becomes discontented by the food and drink given by others, one does not attain meditative jhana, either by day or night. But he in who this discontent is fully destroyed, uprooted, and extinct, he obtains absorption, both by day and night. There is no fire like lust. There is no grip like hatred. There is no net like delusion. There is no river like craving. Easily seen is the fault of others, but one's own fault is difficult to see. Like chaff, one winnows another's faults, but hides one's own, even as a crafty fowler hides behind sham branches. He who seeks another's faults, who is ever censorious, his cankers grow. He is far from destruction of the cankers. There is no track in the sky, and no recluse outside the Buddha's dispensation. Mankind's delight in worldliness, but the Buddhas are free from worldliness. There is no track in the sky and no recluse outside the Buddha's dispensation. There are no conditioned things that are eternal, and no instability in the Buddhas. Hello, Jen. Welcome to the end. All right. So I think we'll do a short business today because I'm a little tired and we're at the end here. So if you are new to this stream, this is your first time watching, and you'd like to see more information about myself and the organization Maggasekha, which I am building, then you can go to the website on the screen, maggasekha.org. Everything is there, every YouTube video, every stream, every retreat. I have 2 retreats coming up, one this week, one this month, the one the next month while I'm here. Articles, videos, whatever, my travels, all the things that arise, you can stay updated at the website on the screen, maggasekha.org. Here we go. So let's share merit. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata chamehi sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika, punyang tang anamoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit that we've thus acquired. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, that is the end of another Dhammapalooza. Suki Hotu, may you be well and at ease. Practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Have a good week.